You are on Tips and Streams with your host, Coca.
What's good, everyone? Welcome back to Tips and Streams. I'm Koken, and I hope you're doing well and feeling locked in wherever you're listening from. All right, let's get to the daily picks. I've got 4 NBA matchups on the card today, so buckle up. We're diving straight into the action. The first prediction for today's NBA games is for the game between the Nuggets and the Memphis Grizzlies. When I break down this matchup in Memphis, the first thing I look at isn't just who's missing, it's who keeps responding when things get messy. And right now, that's Denver. I've watched this Nuggets group for long enough to know when a team is just surviving and when it's actually building resilience. What Denver did in Milwaukee told me a lot. That wasn't a clean win, it wasn't pretty, and it definitely wasn't scripted. But it was controlled basketball, built on discipline, spacing, and defensive execution. When a team locks into a tough road environment shorthanded and still dictates tempo, that matters to me. Denver's identity hasn't changed, even with key bodies out. They still shoot the ball at an elite clip, they still move it unselfishly, and they still punish mistakes. The ball doesn't stick, the reads are sharp, and when they get into the half court, they're comfortable grinding possessions instead of forcing hero shots. That's veteran basketball. What really stands out to me is how well this Nuggets group has traveled all season. They don't rely on emotion, they rely on structure. When I see a team that consistently covers numbers away from home, that tells me they understand how to manage swings, silence crowds, and close quarters without panic. Memphis is loud early, but Denver doesn't flinch when momentum shifts. Now, looking at the Grizzlies, I see a team that competes, but one that's constantly fighting uphill. They've had stretches where the offense flows, where the ball pops, and where individual effort keeps them afloat. But defensively, especially late in games, the cracks keep showing. I've watched too many fourth quarters where leads slip away because rotations break down and the paint opens up. Yes, Memphis rebounds well. Yes, they can score in bunches when things are clicking. But without their primary engine, they're asking role players to close games against a team that's far more comfortable executing under pressure. That's a tough ask. Head-to-head, Denver has consistently found ways to win this matchup by staying efficient and limiting the stakes. They don't need to dominate every quarter. They just need to stay within themselves and wait for Memphis to blink. And historically, that blink usually comes. From a numbers perspective, Denver's shooting efficiency, road consistency, and ability to cover spreads away from home all align with what my eyes are telling me. This is not about star power. This is about habits, and Denver's habits travel. So when I stack everything together, the recent form, the way Denver handles adversity, the defensive lapses Memphis continues to battle, and the market giving me points with the more stable team, the decision becomes clear for me. My prediction is to take the Denver Nuggets to cover the 5-point spread against the Grizzlies in Memphis. Today's second prediction is for the game between the Toronto Raptors and the Oklahoma City Thunder. When I look at this matchup between Toronto and Oklahoma City, the first thing I focus on is context, not just records, not just star power, but where both teams are mentally and physically right now. And this spot tells me a very clear story. Oklahoma City has been one of the most dominant teams in the league this season, no doubt about it. They control tempo, they defend at an elite level, and when Shai is cooking, this offense can look downright unstoppable. But coming off that surprising home loss to Indiana, I don't see a clean bounce-back setup. I see a team that's still excellent, but not built to blow everyone out every single night, especially with the injury situation they're dealing with. The Thunder are missing real glue pieces. The absence of Hartenstein hurts them on the glass and inside positioning, and without Caruso and Williams, their defensive versatility takes a hit. Yes, Shai and Chet are still there. Yes, the top-end talent is intact, but the margin for error is thinner than the market wants to admit. Now flip it to Toronto, and this is where I think the line completely loses the plot. I've watched this Raptors team closely, and what stands out isn't just the 3-game win streak, it's how they're winning. They're defending with purpose, they're moving the ball, and they're playing with confidence on the road. This is not a reckless team. This is a group that understands pace, understands shot selection, and knows how to stay connected defensively, even when shots aren't falling. Toronto doesn't rely on one guy going nuclear. They beat you with balance, with ball movement, and with pressure defense that forces teams to work deep into the clock. Their assist numbers are strong, turnovers are under control, and they've consistently shown they can stay competitive against elite opponents as underdogs. What I also like here is Toronto's comfort in these spots. Double-digit spreads don't scare this team. We've already seen them go into hostile buildings and stay within striking distance. They don't fold. They don't panic. They grind. Do I think Toronto is the better team overall? No. Oklahoma City is clearly the superior roster. But betting isn't about picking the best team. It's about pricing, and this price assumes a blowout that I just don't see. This feels like a game where OKC controls most of the night. But Toronto hangs around, keeps punching back, and never lets the gap fully explode. A late push, some defensive stops, maybe a quick run in the fourth. That's all it takes to cash this ticket. Here my money is on the Toronto Raptors to cover the 12.5-point spread against the Thunder. I'm riding with Toronto to stay competitive, stay disciplined, and make this number look too big by the final buzzer. The third prediction for today is for the game between the New Orleans Pelicans and the San Antonio Spurs. When I break this matchup down from top to bottom, I'm not looking at the standings first. I'm looking at context, game flow, and how this number is actually being priced. That's where this spread starts to feel inflated. New Orleans comes into this one wearing the label nobody wants, a bad record, a road underdog, and a team most bettors fade automatically. But I've been doing this long enough to know that perception and reality don't always line up, especially when the line gets stretched into double digits. What jumps out to me immediately is how competitive this Pelicans group has been when the market expects them to fold. When New Orleans is catching big numbers, they don't suddenly forget how to score or compete. In fact, they've consistently shown an ability to hang around, even when they're clearly outmatched on paper. That matters when you're talking about a spread this large. Offensively, this team is not broken. They play downhill basketball, they attack the paint, and when they get into rhythm, they can put points up in a hurry. That's important because it keeps the back door wide open late. I don't need them to win this game outright. I just need them to stay engaged, keep scoring, and avoid a total collapse. Defensively, yes, there are issues. I'm not sugarcoating that. New Orleans gives up too many easy looks, and they struggle with consistency on that end. But here's the key. Even with those flaws, they've still managed to stay inside big spreads because their offense doesn't disappear. They don't stop playing just because they're down 10 or 12. From a game script standpoint, this sets up perfectly for a cover. Detroit at home is going to try to control the tempo, but if they get comfortable with a lead, that's when focus slips. That's when rotations get sloppy, and that's when a live underdog like New Orleans sneaks back into the number. I've also learned to respect teams that are used to being disrespected. The Pelicans don't get public love. They don't get betting respect, and that's exactly why these inflated spreads exist. This is not about believing they're the better team. It's about understanding how NBA games actually play out over 48 minutes. So when I step back and look at the full picture, the inflated line, the Pelicans' ability to score even in losses, and the natural ebb and flow of an NBA game, the value becomes clear to me. My prediction is this. I'm riding with the New Orleans Pelicans to cover the 13-point spread in Detroit. I'll gladly take those points, trust the math, trust the flow of the game, and let New Orleans do enough to stay within the number. Today's last prediction is for the game between the Miami Heat and Phoenix Suns. When I sit down and really break this matchup apart, the first thing that jumps out to me is context. This game is not just about names on jerseys. It's about timing, fatigue, matchups, and who can impose their identity for 48 minutes. Phoenix comes into this one back home, and I always start there. This Suns team has been one of the most reliable home squads in the league all season, and I don't take that lightly. They play with structure in their own building. The pace is controlled, rotations are sharper, and defensively, they know exactly who they want to take away. Even without Devin Booker on the floor, this group has shown multiple times that they can survive by leaning into defense, discipline, and ball pressure. I keep coming back to the defensive profile of Phoenix. This is a team that forces uncomfortable possessions, limits clean looks, and makes opponents work late into the shot clock. They are excellent at shrinking the floor, especially against teams that rely on rhythm shooting and transition scoring. That matters a lot against Miami. Now let's talk about the Heat. Miami is dangerous, no question. They can score in bunches, and when Bam Adebayo is aggressive, they look like a different team. But I can't ignore the situation here. This is the second night of a back-to-back on the road, traveling west, after an emotional and high-scoring win. I've watched this league long enough to know how often that kind of spot catches up with teams. Miami's offense thrives when they can play fast and free. The issue is that Phoenix does not allow that comfortably, particularly at home. When Miami is forced into half-court execution, that's where inconsistencies show up. Missing key perimeter creators only adds to that problem. I expect stretches where the Heat score, but I also expect dry spells where Phoenix dictates tempo and grinds possessions to a halt. Another angle I like for Phoenix is preparation. The Suns had time to reset, study the previous meeting, and adjust. This feels like a focused response spot. They know exactly what hurt them last time, and I trust their defensive scheme to look much sharper in this rematch. So when I put everything together, the home court, the defensive edge, the fatigue factor on Miami's side, and the way Phoenix consistently handles these situations, my lean becomes very clear. I'm riding with the Phoenix Suns to win this game and cover the 2.5-point spread at home. This feels like one of those steady professional performances where Phoenix controls the flow, absorbs Miami's runs, and closes the door late. My money is on the Suns to take care of business in their own house.